This is episode 501 of the Locked On Rangers podcast. Today, I'm joined by Grant Schiller, the OG, the prospect expert. We're going to talk about the Rangers' huge signing, the most expensive offseason in free agent history. What does it mean for the Rangers, and does it mean that they're contenders now? And if so, what would it take to win the AL West or start contending for a wild card spot? Coming up on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to the Texas Rangers. This is episode 501 of the Locked On Texas Rangers podcast. Thank you so much for joining us and making yesterday by far the biggest day ever in Locked On Rangers history. Make sure you follow the show. Go subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at Brice Paterik. Follow Grant Schiller on Twitter. Wow. On Twitter at OG Schiller.
Family show, Brice.
Follow the show at Locked On Rangers and apologies for the fruity language, as they say in Ted Lasso. I'm joined by Grant Schiller on a much less intense, but still just as exciting episode of Locked On Rangers, where we try and make sense of actual happiness, baseball happiness the Rangers brought us. Grant, how you doing today?
I'm a little under the weather, but it's cool because my baseball team has good players again.
It's a fun thing. It's a fun thing when your baseball team signs good players, and just being able to yell at other teams like, oh, why didn't you try just not being poor? I solved how to get a good offseason. Just don't be poor. That's it. That's the way to have a good offseason. That's it. One simple step. Just spend money. Oh my gosh. Who thought it was that easy? Who would have thought?
George Sandbrenner, Steve Cohen. There's definitely people who have thought it, but not since Tom Hicks for the Rangers.
No, he thought, what if you just spend all your money on one guy and then let everyone else be bad? But Rangers had a revolutionary idea.
Guy.
What if we get that one guy and then we get another guy and then we get a couple other guys that are all right at baseball too, and so it's not just everyone come watch Alex Rodriguez put up historic numbers on a terrible, terrible team.
I did enjoy those A-Rod years. But I mean, having multiple good players is pretty cool too.
It is cool to have multiple good players, and the Rangers definitely have multiple good players. The AL West was hopping. I talked a little bit about it in yesterday's episode, but we're going to talk about what it takes for the Rangers to get into contention, and a little bit about just Grant's thoughts on the moves and what the heck this means for this team. I mean, we've got what time is it? It is 4:00 on Tuesday, right? Yeah, Tuesday. So that means we have 24 plus 8, 32-ish hours until everything stops. So it's been kind of quiet today. Yesterday was by far the most eventful free agency day in just the history of ever. And by God, that was a lot of fun. But first off, just what are your thoughts on these signings? Obviously, they're very good, but like, what does it do for this team? What did you feel emotionally in your bones when you heard the news?
Well, emotionally, it was very exciting just to be like, holy crap, the Rangers got Marcus Semien, they got Corey Seager, they have a pitcher who can throw baseballs good. So emotionally, it was very exciting. Strategically, it's very interesting because I think me and you and pretty much anybody who has followed the farm system over the last few years, like, it's getting better, and people say good things about it for good reason because it's really deep and there's a lot of guys who can put on a big league uniform one day. There's not many impact guys down there. And so it's always hard. It was always hard for all of us to put a date on, like, here's when the Rangers can be competitive again. Because they had a bunch of guys who'd be big leaguers, but not many impactful guys. You need some dogs. You need some 6-7 players to be a playoff team and to be a competitor. And they just didn't have those. So when they were saying we're going to compete in 2023, me and you were like, that's not going to happen, right? And it still might not. Well, we can talk about that. But it's very interesting. They went out, or they saw that need, and they kind of did the opposite of a typical rebuild, which is that you develop some stars, you bring them to the big leagues around the same time, and you supplement them with free agency trades, rounding out the rest of the roster with solid players. They saw they didn't have these stars coming, so they went out, they signed a couple superstars up the middle. And they're going to fill that out with the prospects. And the finishing pieces will be the prospects, it looks like. So it's a little bit different than a typical rebuild. But I think it makes sense given where they're at. This was their pathway to getting the impact players you need. And I think it might have made more sense typically to go sign these guys a year from now. But next year's free agent class isn't anywhere near as good as this year's. So they jumped the line a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. I'm getting very greedy and looking at next year's free agent class. And there's a guy whose initials are TB who I don't even want to talk about because just for many other reasons. There's Nolan Arenado, which that'd be nice, but I feel like he's going to re-sign in St. Louis. And also Josh Young, why would you displace him? Because obviously he's a better defender than Nolan Arenado. He's not. He's not going to be. But that's not any begrudgingness on him. There's also Chris Sale, Jacob deGrom, JD Martinez, and Thor. Other than that, Xander Bogaerts is a player option for $20 million that I am certain that he is going to exercise. Other than that, you look further down and it's not as deep, and there's definitely not a top 3, 4, 5 guys in the class that are just bona fide studs, and definitely age-wise that don't line up quite the same, because I think either Bogart's going to be 29 then, or he's 29 now, and I think it means he's going to be 29 then. But either way,
that's how they do it. Yeah.
Yeah, but either way, that's still older than Seager, who's 27 now, going to be 28 at the beginning of the season next year. And well, it's a little different than Semien, who's going to be 31 next year. But they saw their window, and they saw teams being cheap, and that's a market inefficiency that I have been screaming for somebody to exploit. And I am so glad it's the Rangers. It's just like, hey, look at these guys. Look at what it took to get Nolan Arenado just in a trade. Just all these underpays on prospects and in money that well, surely they could have signed this guy. Outside of the contracts for I don't know, Mookie Betts and Tatis and Francisco Lindor. It's all of these contracts were you could pretty much go get them if you wanted to. There's not a team in the league besides the A's and the Rays that are yeah, we really can't even think about doing that. Every team has the ability to go sign these big contracts. It's just, do you have the gumption to literally sign a check and, do your job as an owner, try and make your team better?
Right. Yeah. Ownership signing checks and making the team better is great. I mean, and the thing is, it's not even that big a payroll because it started from so low.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Beats are talking they're still going to add another piece or two, and they need to. Because, again, they started from so low.
Yeah, they did. But I'm going to stop you right there. I want to take a quick break before we go on to that would have been a very elegant transition. But we got bills to pay. So I got to tell you about this sponsor. Coming up after this. This episode is brought to you by Built Bar. This holiday season, grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, or even better, the candy bar. Built Bar is filled with so much holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat, and high in protein. You get the best of both worlds. Best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. So many flavors, you'll have a hard time choosing. We choose raspberry or mint brownie, cherry or double chocolate, cookies and cream or peanut butter brownie. Built Bar gives you that extra fuel to bust down those mall doors and battle all the holiday shoppers. Or if you're just standing in an endless loop of shopping lines, Built Bar can get you that extra something to keep you going. So throw one in your jacket or your purse. You never know when you're going to need it because it's the season of peace and love. Don't bring up your favorite Built Bar at family parties. People are very passionate about their favorite flavors, so they'll get fighting and things will get out of hand. You're friends with Santa? Well, tell Santa to throw in a few Built Bars in those stockings. With so many flavors, they make anyone's Christmas morning a happy one. Want to cozy up to something warm? Here's a holiday secret. Dip your Built Bar in a piping cup of hot cocoa. Let it melt a little. Give your beverage an extra bit of Built Bar flavor, plus you'll have a nice melty Built Bar to go with it. Be sure to have a couple of napkins on hand as well. So, like those marshmallowy treats around the holidays, you need a little different flavor. Get Built Bar Puffs. They're light, fluffy, and marshmallowy through and through. Different flavors, all covered in chocolate. taste so good, you won't believe they're filled with protein. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. And now, back to my talk with Grant Schiller. And we are back with the great, the wonderful, the illustrious, the happy, the optimistic OG Grant Schiller to talk about the Rangers heading in a positive direction, having the best 2 days of this franchise history they've had since, I don't know, the 2010 World Series. Honestly, that's kind of, well...
Let's say they made the playoffs in 2016.
Surely
there was a 2-day span better in there.
I don't know. I don't. Towards the end, was it 15 or 16 that Joe Nathan closed out in the game in the rain on day 162 to clinch the division from the Astros? That might have been a little bit better. I can't remember which one of those years it was. Those two years were so similar, and they both ended so badly. But that middle part was
I know
really nice.
2015 Cole Hamels did against the Angels, so it wasn't that one. I don't think Joe Nathan was on the 16 team.
No, I think he was. I think it was against the Angels, and it was in the rain. Oh my god.
Okay.
Anyway, it's been the best day in the last like 2 years, or the last 5 years. Definitely the last 2 years. Probably the last 5 years. And y'all's appetites for podcasts really is the barometer for that. But they have been bad. They have picked second this year, and they will pick third next year. And hopefully, I don't know. We talked about this before. They would take like the biggest offseason ever to make them not straight up not bad. And I don't. Mm-hmm. Do you think that they're not bad now, or do they need one or two more pieces to be not bad? Are they like kind of bad now?
For 2022?
Yes, at this point. With what they've done so far, as of 4 o'clock on Tuesday.
I think right now they've gone from terrible to kind of bad. I think the current roster is probably, like a 75-win team? Something like that. They're starting from 60 and 102.
Is that 97 losses, I think?
That's 102.
Wait, 70?
Oh, 75 wins?
75 wins is how many losses?
87.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like that's about right. And that's a huge upgrade. That's 15-win improvement.
Huge. Yeah. It drives home the fact, like, how bad they started from, that you add Semien and Seager and Gray, and you're still a 75-win team. But that's a big step forward. I don't think they're done adding. I think 2022 was always off the table as a year of contention, right? The young guys aren't going to be up and ready yet. But they are certainly a much, much better team.
I will say, I think Cole Winn will make it by the end of the season, and Josh Young, I think, will be on opening day. But again, you're right that they won't be like ready to like be there fully. They'll still be rookies, and they'll still be young next year, but they'll have a little bit of experience under their belt. I actually don't know about Cole Winn. We'll see how he progresses, how he does at AAA, because again, we talked about it before, and I don't remember how he finished the season at AAA, how well he did there. I don't think it was nearly as impressive as his AA numbers, because AA hitters were real bad this year. There is no way around that, outside of Josh Young when he was there. The rest of them were pretty much subpar. But anyway,
yeah.
So what does this team need to move into contention? You said you think they have a couple more pieces to get. I personally think that, my hope is that it's Clayton Kershaw and Seiya Suzuki. Because of the outfielders, I think that's the one that makes the most sense, given like financial commitments and age and all that. I mean, I did see some. I don't know that there was actual like rumors linking the Rangers to Castellanos, but some like musings of like maybe they consider him. Do you think that's out the window, especially with this bag that they've thrown, this very large bag they have thrown at several people?
Yeah, so I really like Castellanos, but he's apparently asking for 7 or 8 years. I don't see them going there with him after these last 2 contracts. Man, so I think
if Carlos Correa is struggling to get 10 years, what does Nick Castellanos think he's going to get 8 for?
Well, dude hits.
I mean, he does, but he also doesn't play premium shortstop defense. He didn't just run a Gold Glove.
I imagine he ends up at 5 or 6, but I just don't see that being a market they get into at this point. Maybe, but I doubt it. I think Suzuki and then Arm are the 2 things they really still need. And again, that gets him to like 500 this year. It's still building towards 2023.
That would be a huge upgrade.
It would be.
What, 20? Yeah, that's 20 win improvement. That would be ginormous. Of the arms left, I'm curious, who is your... I don't know that you're as high on Kershaw as I am, which admittedly I'm a little biased. I don't know that he's going to provide the value that Pete Kershaw does, but for my heart and the pain that they have inflicted on me the last 2 years, I think I deserve a Clayton Kershaw.
I would love Clayton Kershaw as a fan. As a team-building exercise, maybe not who I'd go for given the injury and his injury history, age, what he's going to cost. At the same time, I'm not sure if there's many better options out there. I mean, maybe it's more... I mean,
who else left at this point? I mean, Robbie Ray, Verlander, Thor gone.
Right. It's not much. It's Kershaw. And after that, you're looking at Nick Martinez.
Hey, bring him home. In case you missed the report, he is looking for a major league deal. Former Ranger great, and would have been a very great random Ranger. But now, if he signs with the Rangers, then he's not random at all. He's just current Ranger. Can you have a current random Ranger? Is that possible?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like DJ Peters is already a current random Ranger.
Yeah, I guess that's fair because I sometimes forget that he is still on this team. But yeah, there's really not a whole lot else out there that like I feel comfortable
There's Dylan Bundy. You got the other older guys like Cueto and Greinke who are significantly older than Kershaw. Kershaw's really the last impact guy. I mean, even Alex Cobb just got signed. Rodon, yeah, but he's coming off the shoulder fatigue.
Stroman's still out there, but I haven't seen the Rangers link to him.
I don't think he fits the culture that they want.
How so?
He's just a pretty toxic personality. He's, at least the way I read him, he acts like he's a very positive person and positive mindset, but he is very aggressively negative towards anyone or anything who goes against him in any way. I don't think, given what the Rangers say about their culture, I don't think he fits.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I've heard nothing but good things about Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. And after writing a couple posts on them, trying to figure out things about them, they're both boring, but very good baseball players and good people, which is fine. Like if their worst personality trait is that they're boring, then like totally great with that. But I'm gonna take a quick break and come back. I want to get into a trade possibility that has been floated that confuses me and I think might perplex you as well. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered for all the season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football season continues the march to the playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. You want to bet on Corey Seager and Marcus Semien hitting a whole bunch of home runs and making me personally very, very happy? You can do that probably a little bit later on the season. There's some more, football and hockey and all kinds of different sports that are actually going on now, centric bets. So head to the new updated desktop or mobile website today. Sign up, receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available on the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. And now, back to my talk with the OG, Grant. And we are back with the brilliant, the insightful, the delightful, the spriteful OG Grant Schiller to talk about the Rangers making possibly the best offseason in the history of any sport ever. I don't feel like that's too much of a hyperbole, but it feels right on the mark. But anyway, the trade proposal, there are actually a couple of them that have been floating around. There's been some reports that Isaiah Kiner-Falefa has some interest from the New York Yankees, and also I've also heard that the Rangers have been sniffing around Matt Olson. Let's start with the best player, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and Ormoyal was one of the ones. He is of the Athletic, formerly of WFAA, formerly of living in Dallas. R.I.P. He moved to New York and therefore is dead. But he floated a move of I believe it was Ezekiel Duran, plus IKF plus I think one other prospect for Joey Gallo.
Yeah, no, I hate it.
You hate it?
I hate it.
Why do you hate it?
They just traded Joey Gallo half a year ago. He was terrible for them. Now he only has 1 year left under contract. A year the Rangers won't be competitive, in all likelihood. So why are you going to give back the best prospect you got in that trade? It makes no sense to me. I saw that. I did not care for it.
Wow. So you're saying you don't want Joey back at all costs?
I would love to have Joey back, but they cannot have Ezekiel Duran for him.
What if it's just straight up? I feel like that's fair.
I care for Joey? Yeah, that's a deal.
I mean, how many years of control does Isaiah Kiner-Falefa have? He's cheap.
Two, I think.
Because apparently the Yankees are poors now. And the big money Rangers, maybe that's why they traded Joey there. And, we'll pay his salary. You poor Yankees, you don't have the money to spend. Just like all those poor guys. And you can get this cheap controllable. I guess the A's actually moved to New York and to the Bronx. And I must have missed that move. Or just everybody got poor, which is really embarrassing for them, but not for the Rangers. But would you consider what would be a package that you would feel comfortable, feel good about of Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Joey Gallo trade? Which, in my head, just sounds like an insane thing to say.
It does.
But I don't care. I want it. I want it badly.
I wouldn't add that much to Isaiah. Unless Joey signed an extension along with the trade.
I think he will. In that case, you would have to give him an actual extension.
You'd have to.
There's literally no other excuse. Also, can we go back and say, do you actually really like Duran? Because if you do, then, I feel differently. But at this moment, I'm thinking, literally 3 months after you stiffed the best homegrown player you've brought up this decade, and it's not particularly close, and you stiffed him for, anywhere decent of a contract offer. And then 3 months later, you unload the biggest offseason, most expensive offseason in MLB history. The hell is the deal there?
But, it still fits the timeline, right? Because they're not going to be competitive until 2023. Gallo's a free agent after 2022. If you didn't have an extension you liked, trade him. I understand where that take comes from. I've seen a lot of it. The frustration, I think, is I get it. But he's a free agent a year before you even have a chance at competing. Since
when are you rational on Joey Gallo? Who are you? What have you done with Grant Schiller?
Bring him back, put him in center field for the next decade.
Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. Trade for him, sign him to a 15-year, $600 million extension. Tell him, make him write in the contract, I will never leave you again. I'm so sorry. Even though it's not my fault.
The Rangers should be apologizing, right?
Yeah, no, the Rangers should be saying that in his contract. Please don't ever leave again. Unless you want to, in which case, then we've deeply screwed up and you deserve to go be happy somewhere else.
Unless it's the Astros.
Yeah. Oh God, no. No. When I read the report that Joey Gallo was being talked about in trades with AL West teams and the Rangers weren't involved, I was like, I swear to God, if he goes to the Astros, it happened in an MLB The Show game that I was playing where he got traded to the Astros, and I'm like, I am viscerally sick seeing this. But let's get to the other trade. Matt Olson. Is that a trade that makes any sense to you?
In.
You're in?
He's a beast.
I mean, I know he's a beast. There's no question about that. It's just you literally just traded for a first baseman last year. You can keep trading for him again. What is this, the 2010s where we're recycling first baseman every year?
He's got 2 years of control left. He's unbelievable. Trade for him. Extend him. If Nate Lowe's your DH as a result for a year,
I think
move on from him.
I think Nate Lowe goes in that trade. I think all packages revolve around
that. Works too.
Because he's cheap and controllable and will be just about fine for them for the next foreseeable future.
Deal. Yeah, count me in.
Okay.
Olson's great.
Would he be?
Good
would he cost a top 3 prospect?
That's
my only deal. Is I don't want any of my top 3 of Leiter, Wynn, and Young. I don't think they're worth 2 years of Matt Olson.
I think they're worth 2 years of Matt Olson. I don't think they're worth 2 years of Matt Olson in the Rangers position. So I think if it's Lowe and Foscue and However, and a couple other guys, count me in.
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to cost you Wynn, Leiter, or Young, probably count me out.
Okay. I feel like that's a very rational, measured take. But let's take a quick look at the rest of the AL West, because that's the division the Rangers are competing in case you forgot, because they were not competing the last 2 years. So it would be excusable if you forgot which division they're in, because they were nowhere near the top, and there was no point to look at the standings other than to see how well they're doing in the Tankathon. But
Wait. We aren't in a division with the Orioles and Pirates and Diamondbacks?
Contrary to popular belief, actually, no. I know it's a confusing thing to see, but yeah, that's different. But the other teams made moves too. The other teams did not cry poor. Well, the Astros have cried a little poor. But everybody's made at least a couple moves. Seattle got Robbie Ray, former, reigning Cy Young winner, and Adam Frazier, a guy who did not work out at all on San Diego and did very well in Pittsburgh this year. Seems like a decent second baseman for them. The Angels got pitching like they absolutely needed. They were very high on Robbie Ray, and I know they're just super pissed to miss out on him. But they get Thor, the golden-haired Noah Syndergaard. They get Michael Lorenzo and Aaron Loop. Houston got Hector Neris and Justin Verlander, and lost, where was it? Who did they lose? Kendall Graveman, they lost him to the Chicago White Sox, and they lost Yimi Garcia to Toronto. They also lost Brooks Raley to the Tampa Bay Rays. So 2 relievers gone. I guess did I say Verlander? They got him back.
Yeah, they get him back. Yeah.
Okay,
You did say that.
So I want to start with Michael Lorenzo, because he's the guy who I know the least about. Does this seem like a decent offseason for the Angels? I know they needed like 3 pitchers, but they got technically 3, but
I have no idea what they're doing. So first of all, they give up a draft pick for a 1-year deal on Syndergaard at a high price when he's barely pitched for the last year and a half, and when he has, his velo's been significantly down. I don't get that. Michael Lorenzen, I watched a lot of last year's after he came back from his injury. And he was 94, 95 out of the pen with no plus secondary and
so he's
30 grade command.
He's not a starter, right?
They're going to start him.
Oh,
They're making him a starter. He's been a reliever his whole career. He looked terrible out of the pen last year. He has walked over almost about 4.5 per 9 over the last 2 years. And the Angels gave him $7 million, are going to make him a starter. I don't know how that works. I don't know how that makes sense.
And they also got Aaron Loop as well, who
Aaron Loop was incredible last year.
he was okay, good.
I don't know where that came from, but he was incredible last year.
Didn't he have years like that before where he was good, or has he just been kind of the meh guy, lefty reliever who just kind of found it?
I couldn't tell you for sure. My perception of him is that he's always been meh, and then last year pops out a .95 ERA in 56 innings.
Well, that is a heck of a get for them. But again, they needed like 3 stars. They really desperately needed Robbie Ray, and
they're still in on Marcus Stroman, and they're talking with the Reds about Gray and Castillo, right?
Yeah,
or at least the reports.
They are talking. The price is going to be high. I don't know how high their farm system is, and I bet the talk started with who's the guy who had the home run? Joey Gallo. Yeah, and I bet they said, no, that's not happening. And then Taos moved from there, probably to Brandon Marsh or something like that. But anyway, Seattle, Robbie Ray, Adam Frazier. I didn't feel super great about Adam Frazier, especially after the back half that he put up last year on an actual contending team, not just the Pirates, who suddenly randomly had 4 or 5 pretty good players, but were still absolutely terrible. Which didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But how do you feel about Seattle's offseason? I know they were right in the thick of it towards the end of the season for contention. How do you think they're going to do next year? Do you think these guys are going to take a step forward and have some actually challenge the Astros for the West?
So, I think they've gotten better as a team. I think they'll win fewer games because they got so lucky last year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe these 2 additions cancel out the luck regression that they're bound to have, and they're about the same as far as win total. But they're not starting from what they have, 87 wins. That's not their true starting point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their true starting point is an 80-win team, and they've certainly gotten better from that.
Yeah, for sure. So it's probably going to be, again, the Astros' division to lose unless the Angels get like 3 starting pitchers, unless they get like Castillo and who did we just talk about?
Just take the whole Reds rotation. Just take Castillo, Gray, and Maley.
Yeah, apparently. If you're going to be poor about it, then just be poor about it. Just quit wasting everybody's time. So, yeah, it looks like it won't be that much of a contention for the AL West. I'm hoping that it is. I'm really hoping that Seattle like gets significantly better, like and surpasses their luck regression and actually has a good year. But the Rangers, I don't think are going to be quite in that mix, and I'm not sure that you do. So where do you see this team next year at this point? I know we talked about it a little before, and what is it going to take to make that next step into contention? And do you see 2023 looking like an actual realistic possibility now?
So it's interesting. So obviously they said 2023, and we've said that's not happening. Now it's more realistic. It does get a little sticky still, though, right? So let's just assume that they get Suzuki and an arm. Let's just assume they have their perfect offseason. They fill those 2 spots.
Which arm? We got to be specific because I feel like.
Let's say they give Kershaw 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
So he's still there in 2023.
Okay.
So you're looking at a 2023 roster. Your pitching staff is Kershaw, Gray, Dunning. Wynn should be in the rotation by the start of 2023. I think he probably spends all year in AAA this year and then comes up next year, but right around that time he should be up. In the 5th spot, you're looking at a long, lengthy competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could be Taylor Hearn, AJ Alexy, Jack Leiter could be pushing up by that point.
You really think he could do it after 1 year?
He's still advanced. I mean, I wouldn't put money on it. But probably some point in 2023 he could be pushing up there. If he has just a dominant 2022, maybe it is opening day.
What about Spencer Howard? Because
Spencer Howard, right?
What do you think they're going to do with him this year? Because I think that's a huge question, and because he's obviously not ready to like actually be competitive starter every 5th day. But I think you still do need to give him like consistent chance. So what?
I agree.
What's the move there? Does he like split start with Colby Howard and you just decide to like kind of tank every 5th day?
Yeah, I think that makes plenty of sense to me. I think he's got to get the ball every 5th day, whether you're limiting his innings in a tandem role or not. Is probably up to how he's adjusted and how he's looking. But I think you got to give him this year to see what he can do. But he's in that conversation for the 5th starter. So you look at that rotation and it's still not great, right? And you're still dependent on young arms who want a finished product. You should have a good arm barn at that point. It's hard to predict bullpens even the upcoming year, much less 2023.
But I think the arm barn's going to be half decent this year as well.
You would think so. You've got a lot of high octane power arms out there. You've got Leclerc and Jonathan Hernandez coming back.
Hoping that they're healthy.
You've got Nick Snyder and Joe Barlow who debuted this year. You've got Yeri Rodriguez and Glenn Otto coming up.
And Brett Martin.
You've got Brett Martin. You've got a lot of good upper-level arms who might end up in pin rolls. So the arm barn should be good. And then if you look at the lineup, you're again dependent on pretty young guys outside of the big acquisitions, right? So Seager, Semien, Suzuki in this instance. Do you run Low back out there for a 3rd year at first? Maybe. Young's in year 2. Tavares probably in year 2 at that point. So you're getting a little bit older, but you're still pretty young. So is your team fully ready to compete by then? Maybe. Maybe they're just an 85-86 win team. And then you get to 2024, then Marcus Semien's 34, 35. He loses a couple steps, and maybe you're going to have a hard time making that up. So it can get sticky. Like, they're not there yet. They still need things to go right developmentally. They need to get some injury luck. But it's in play. And that's a big step forward from where it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually seeing the guys on the field. And, you know, I think Marcus Semien might age gracefully, but eventually he's going to, by the end of that contract, he's not going to be
Right.
Nobody's going to age like Adrian Beltre. And, we'll see how long Corey Seager lasts at shortstop. But I do know that Chris Woodward did spend a lot of time. And there's a big reason why he is able to play shortstop as a 6'4", 215-pound guy.
Right.
And
maybe he keeps getting injured. That could really hurt him too.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of things that could go wrong here.
It could literally hurt him.
It could, yes. Hurt him and them, literally.
And my feelings. Because if they sign this huge contract and he doesn't get to play the first year, I'm going to be upset. By the way, I did want to read off the injuries that he's had. Because I know he's missed a lot of time, but they have been very different things. It's not just like one nagging like shoulder thing. So since 2017, he's only played more than 100 games just once, when he played 134 in 2019. But again, 2020 was an unabridged season. He was pretty healthy for that. But in 2018, he played only 26 games. He had a right UCL strain that required Tommy John surgery, which you don't see a whole lot for non-pitchers. That ended his season. 2019, he missed a month in the middle of June to the middle of July with a hamstring injury. And then this year, he got hit in the hand and broke his right metacarpal, and that knocked him out from May to the end of July. So, it's not just one thing. So it does look bad when you look like, all right, he hasn't played a whole bunch of games, but it's been different things. So I don't know if that's better or just he's going to be all around injured. But I think he can do it. And, when he's healthy, he is one of the most dynamic shortstops in baseball. That's what you paid for. He's also got a cute toy Australian shepherd, whose name is Hazel Gray, which is just delightful, absolutely delightful. But yeah, this team did a lot, and it was extremely exciting. And this team is going to be—they've already accomplished my best case scenario, basically, outside of Kershaw. If they got Suzuki, then I think that might surpass my best case scenario. But we already accomplished our goals, like we said, a couple weeks ago, of a successful offseason. They make us want to watch baseball next year.
Yes.
Their baseball, not just baseball in general. And
there are reasons to watch this team and be excited again.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
That is incredible. And again, I don't think they're going to trade either of these stars midseason like they did Joey Gallo. So they're going to be around for all 162. Several of the 162 in the years to come after this. But thank you so much for joining me. Thank you guys for making Locked On Rangers your first listen of the day. Make sure to go follow me on Twitter at Brice Paterik. Follow Grant at OG Schill. Follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And leave nice comments. Don't say mean things about Joey Gallo's batting average. Until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.